The shout was piercing, shattering the deceptive calm of Saturday morning on the spacious sidewalk in front of the community food supermarket. It accompanied an unimaginably reckless act. Officer Dave Riley, a white police officer, tall but with a baby face that clearly showed his arrogance, was aiming his black Glock 19 pistol directly at the black man standing opposite him. His index finger hovered over the trigger, his stance tense, eyes blazing with aggression and perhaps a hint of hidden fear. "Freeze!" I said. "Freeze!" Riley yelled, his voice cracking with anger. "Hands on your head, now! Don't move, or I'll shoot!" The target of the gun was Marcus Jones, a black man around 40, the owner of this very community food supermarket. He had a strong, sturdy frame, the result of regular exercise and perhaps years of manual labor before building his business. He was dressed casually, a t-shirt underneath a simple button-down shirt, khaki pants, and athletic shoes. He stood beside an aluminum stand laden with carefully prepared bags of essentials, sandwiches, small milk cartons, canned tuna, apples, bananas, ready for the weekly charity giveaway he and his staff organized. A simple handwritten sign stood nearby. Community support, free essentials for those in need, every Saturday, 9 a.m. A few curious passers-by stopped at a safe distance, eyes wide with shock. Some customers exiting the supermarket froze, disbelieving the scene unfolding before them. Maria Garcia, the supermarket's assistant manager, a sharp Latina woman, stood frozen in the doorway, her face a mask of fear and helplessness. Marcus Jones slowly raised his hands to shoulder height as the officer demanded. His face, usually wearing a friendly, warm smile, was now taut, revealing utter shock and profound indignation. But in his eyes, there was no panic or crumbling fear, only disbelief, suppressed anger, and an almost unnerving cold calm. "Officer, what the hell are you doing?" Marcus asked, his voice deep and steady, though simmering inside. "Lower your weapon immediately! You're endangering everyone here." Marcus's calm demeanor and slightly commanding tone seemed to infuriate Riley further. "You dare lecture me?" he snarled, taking a step closer, the gun's muzzle nearly touching Marcus's shirt. "You dare disobey a police order, probably peddling illegal stuff or running some kind of scam, huh? Something about you just looks wrong." The blatant derogatory and racist remarks spewed from the young officer's mouth. He eyed Marcus up and down with suspicion, his judgment clouded by prejudice. "Hands higher!" "Higher!" Riley yelled again, "or I'll blow your damn head off!" The air on the sidewalk in front of Community Foods grew thick, suffocatingly tense. A police officer was pointing a gun at a black man engaged in charity work, right in front of his own store, in broad daylight, with numerous witnesses. What the hell was really going on here? And who was this unnervingly calm black man? It had all started about 10 minutes earlier, over seemingly trivial grounds, quickly ignited by the flames of prejudice and abuse of power. Marcus Jones, along with his assistant manager Maria Garcia and a few volunteers, was busy preparing for the weekly Free Essentials giveaway, an initiative he had consistently maintained for several years since his community food supermarket became established. It wasn't just his way of giving back to the community that supported him, it was a personal commitment born from understanding and empathy for the hardships he himself had partly experienced before building his business. He was the younger brother of the state governor, Victoria Jones, a powerful and well-known politician. But Marcus never wanted to rely on his sister's shadow. He built his business career independently, starting with a small grocery store and gradually expanding it into the community foods chain, beloved by locals for its friendliness, fair prices, and positive social contributions. He lived modestly, without fanfare, and few knew of his prominent family connection, except his closest circle. The Saturday morning charity giveaway was always organized neatly on the wide sidewalk directly in front of the main supermarket, never obstructing pedestrians or customers. The activity was fully permitted by the Oakwood city government and consistently supported by the supermarket management and the surrounding community. But that morning, Officer Dave Riley, on his morning patrol shift, saw things differently. Riley was a young officer, only about 3 years on the force, but he had quickly revealed an aggressive, arrogant nature and, notably, deep-seated racial prejudices. He grew up in a conservative white neighborhood and carried suspicion and animosity towards people of color, immigrants, and those he perceived as lower class. He often acted superior, nitpicked minor infractions, and enjoyed asserting his authority over those he considered weak. Driving past Community Foods, Riley saw the stand filled with bags and a group of people, mostly homeless and low-income individuals, starting to gather nearby. To Riley's eyes, this was an eyesore, disrupting the urban aesthetic and posing a potential risk of public disorder. Marcus Jones's presence, a fairly robust-looking black man directing the setup, particularly irked him. He didn't believe it was a genuine charity event. Riley stopped his patrol car, stepped out with an air of false authority, and strode directly towards Marcus. "Hey, you!" he called out rudely, without any greeting. "What kind of stunt are you pulling here? Who gave you permission to set up this junk heap? Clean it up now. This is public property, not your flea market." Marcus, who had been smiling and instructing a volunteer on arranging the bags, was slightly surprised by the officer's harsh tone, but remained polite. "Good morning, officer. Is there a problem?" "A problem?" Riley raised an eyebrow, his voice condescending. "Can't you see this mess is blocking the sidewalk? It's an eyesore. Clean it up." Marcus smiled amiably, gesturing to the ample remaining sidewalk space. "Officer, we always ensure there's plenty of room for everyone to pass. This is our supermarket's weekly free essentials giveaway to help those in need in our community." He pointed to the sign. "This activity is fully permitted by the city, and we always maintain cleanliness and order." He introduced himself. "I'm Marcus Jones, the owner of this Community Foods." Riley eyed Marcus from head to toe with skepticism and disbelief. "You're the owner of this supermarket?" He scoffed, the sound dripping with contempt. "You don't look like an owner. Probably just some low-level employee hired to put on a show for customers." The prejudiced thought that a black man couldn't possibly own such a large business flashed through his mind. "Let me see your charity permit and your ID right now." Marcus felt his patience wearing thin. He wasn't used to being treated with such disrespect, especially while doing good for the community. "Officer, I can get the permit from my office for you. As for my ID, this activity is taking place right in front of my place of business, on property we're permitted to use. I don't believe I'm obligated to show personal identification when there's no indication of any wrongdoing." He answered firmly, but kept his tone civil. This refusal, though legally sound, was interpreted by Riley as concealment and defiance. He became more convinced that something shady was behind this charity operation. "No ID? Or just scared to show it because you'll be exposed?" He resorted to harsher, more malicious insults. "Probably an illegal immigrant, or got some kind of criminal record. That's why you're so jumpy, right? Putting on this show for these bums, these leeches on society, just stirs up trouble in the neighborhood, just a bunch of lazy freeloaders waiting for handouts." He glanced contemptuously at the homeless individuals waiting nearby. "I'm ordering you to clear this table out, now. If you don't, I'll confiscate everything and haul you and these bums down to the station for disturbing the peace." At this point, Marcus could tolerate no more. The insults were directed not only at him, but also at the vulnerable people needing help. He stood tall, facing Riley, his voice shedding its earlier friendliness, becoming firm and steely. "Officer, you are way out of line. You have absolutely no authority to confiscate these legal charitable donations, and you certainly have no right to insult me or any other citizen with such discriminatory and derogatory language. Your attitude and behavior are utterly unacceptable for someone wearing a police uniform. I demand you stop immediately and call your supervisor to handle this situation. Being lectured on law and professional ethics by a black man who then dared to demand his supervisor in front of everyone was like a slap in the face to Riley's ego and arrogance. He felt challenged, publicly humiliated. Blinding rage and the instinct to crush anyone who dared defy him surged, overwhelming any remaining reason. "You dare make demands of me? You dare resist a police order?" he yelled, his face flushing crimson, his right hand automatically moving to the Glock holstered at his hip. "I suspect you're heading an illegal operation, using charity as a front for criminal activity. You have a dangerous attitude, resisting an officer." He deliberately fabricated accusations to justify his next move. "Freeze! Hands on your head!" He drew the gun from its holster with a swift, menacing motion. Marcus froze, unable to believe his eyes. What was he doing? Drawing his gun? Over an argument about a charity table? "Are you crazy?" Marcus yelled, trying to back away. But Riley had completely lost control. He took another step forward, aiming the gun squarely at Marcus's chest. Click! The dry metallic sound of the safety being disengaged echoed, cold and terrifying. "I said freeze! Hands up, or I'll shoot!" And that was the horrifying moment that began the story, where kindness was met with the barrel of a gun, where prejudice and abuse of power pushed the situation to the brink of tragedy. Facing the dark muzzle aimed straight at his chest, Marcus Jones felt an icy surge of adrenaline. But instead of panicking, survival instincts and perhaps the experience of navigating difficult business situations helped him maintain astonishing composure. He knew the person opposite him wasn't just an officer performing his duty, but someone out of control, driven by rage and blind prejudice. Any unwise move now could lead to devastating consequences. He slowly raised his hands to shoulder height as ordered, his eyes still fixed on Riley, trying to assess the situation and find an opening to de-escalate. "All right, officer," he said, keeping his voice steady and non-confrontational. "I'm putting my hands up, but please lower the gun. You're scaring everyone here." He glanced at the surrounding civilians, many pale with fear, some clutching children, others hastily retreating. Riley kept the gun trained, but he seemed to notice the increasing attention and extreme tension. He didn't actually want to open fire in broad daylight with so many witnesses. Drawing the weapon was mainly intimidation, meant to subdue the stubborn black man who dared defy him. "I told you to get on the ground. Didn't you hear me?" he yelled, trying to regain his tough facade. "I'll count to 3. 1, 2 dots. Maria Garcia, the assistant manager, had regained some courage. She stepped out from the doorway, hands raised. "Officer, please stop! That really is our boss, Mr. Marcus Jones. He's a good man. He's doing charity." "Shut up! Get back inside!" Riley barked, waving the gun towards Maria, making her recoil in fear. "Mind your own damn business!" A few homeless individuals waiting for food also spoke up timidly. "He's just helping us, officer. Please don't hurt him." "I told you all to shut up!" Riley roared, further angered by the interference. He turned the gun back to Marcus. 3! "Wait," Marcus said quickly, his voice urgent but not panicked. "Okay, I'll do what you say. But before you do anything else, please let me make one phone call, just one call. It's very important." Riley hesitated slightly at the unexpected request. "A phone call? Right now? Who are you calling? Backup?" he asked suspiciously, though his finger eased slightly on the trigger. No, Marcus replied quickly. I just need to call my sister. Let her know what's happening. She'll be very worried if she can't reach me and I get arrested." He tried to sound somewhat vulnerable, appealing for understanding. "Sister?" Riley smirked, contempt returning. "What's your sister gonna do? Probably just another black woman sitting at home crying, right? He hadn't fully lowered the gun, but curiosity, and perhaps a desire to see more of this show, made him pause his command for Marcus to get down. "All right, fine. Make the call, but put it on speaker so I can hear, and make it quick. I don't have all day." Marcus let out an inward sigh of relief. This was his chance. He slowly lowered one hand, pulling his smartphone from his pocket. He deliberately let Riley see the simple lock screen, then unlocked it with his fingerprint. He scrolled through his contacts, stopping at an entry saved under the very ordinary name, Sis Vicky. He hit call and activated the speakerphone as instructed. The ringing tone echoed in the tense silence. Everyone nearby held their breath, watching. Riley still aimed the gun at Marcus, but his eyes showed clear curiosity. After 2 rings, a professional, polite, but slightly hurried female voice came from the speaker. "Governor Victoria Jones's office, Assistant Thompson speaking." Upon hearing Governor Victoria Jones's office, Riley's smug expression instantly froze. His pupils dilated in shock. Governor Victoria Jones, the current state governor? Impossible. It must be a mistake. Marcus held the phone near his ear, his voice attempting normalcy but laced with urgency. "Hi, Ms. Thompson. This is Marcus Jones. Could you please put me through to my sister, Governor Jones, urgently?" "Oh, good morning, Mr. Jones." The assistant's voice on the other end immediately became more deferential and brisk. "Yes, of course, sir. Please hold for just a moment. I'll transfer you to the governor right away." Riley stood there, stunned. Marcus Jones, the governor's brother? He looked again at the black man in the simple clothes standing by the charity table. This man couldn't possibly be Governor Victoria Jones's brother. The governor was a powerful white woman. How could she have a black brother who owned a supermarket and handed out charity? It had to be a mistake, or this guy was using a fake name, bluffing. But then, the familiar, authoritative, and unmistakable voice of Governor Victoria Jones herself cut through Riley's chaotic thoughts from the speakerphone. "Marcus? Why are you calling urgently? And on the official line? Where are you?" Her voice held a note of surprise but was still warm. "Vicky, it's me," Marcus replied, his voice finally revealing the strain and severity of the situation. "I'm right outside my store, Community Foods in Oakwood. I was doing the weekly charity giveaway when I ran into a little problem with a local police officer here." "A problem? What did the police do?" The governor's tone instantly sharpened with concern and authority. "Are you all right? What did they do to you?" "I'm okay, Vicky," Marcus reassured her. "It's just, there's an officer named Dave Riley." He quickly glanced at the name tag of the petrified officer before him. "He thinks I'm causing a disturbance, looks suspicious, and, well, right now he's pointing his gun at me, sis." He delivered the last sentence with terrifying calm. "What?" Governor Victoria Jones's shriek of fury and disbelief erupted from the phone, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear clearly. "Riley? Oakwood Police Department? Daring to point a gun at my brother?" Silence hung heavy for a few seconds, broken only by Riley's ragged breathing. Then the governor's voice returned, ice cold, laced with undisguised authority and threat. "Marcus, put that officer Riley on the phone with me right now, immediately." Marcus calmly extended the phone towards Riley, who stood frozen, face deathly white, his entire body trembling uncontrollably. Riley shakily reached out and took the phone from Marcus, as if it were a burning coal. He stammered into it. Hello? This, Officer Riley, speaking." "Officer Riley." Governor Victoria Jones's voice roared through the line like an approaching hurricane. "What the hell do you think you're doing? Who gave you permission to point a gun at my brother? Do you have any idea what you've just done?" She gave Riley no chance to respond. "Listen to my order. Lower that damn gun now. Apologize to my brother immediately. Then stand there like the idiot you are and wait for your Chief Chen to arrive and deal with you. If you dare disobey me, I swear to God, I will make sure you regret this day for the rest of your miserable life. Is that clear?" The call ended with a long, cold dial tone. Riley stood there, the phone slipping from his trembling hand and clattering onto the pavement. He hastily bent down to retrieve it, then immediately lowered his gun, engaged the safety, and shoved it into its holster as if it were scalding hot. Then, in utter panic and terror, fully realizing the catastrophic mistake he had made, Riley did something completely unexpected. He turned to face Marcus Jones and abruptly dropped to both knees on the dusty sidewalk. "Mr. Jones, I'm sorry. Please forgive me," Riley stammered, tears starting to stream down his pale face. I really didn't know you were the governor's brother. I was blind. I was so stupid. Please put in a good word for me with the governor. Please don't ruin my life." The sight of a large white police officer, who moments ago was aggressively pointing a gun and spewing insults, now kneeling on the ground, weeping and begging a black man he had disdained, left all witnesses stunned, followed by whispers of satisfaction and contempt. True power had spoken, and the tables had turned spectacularly. The cost of prejudice and abuse of power was beginning to dawn on Dave Riley. The chaos and tension in front of Community Foods hadn't subsided when, just minutes after the governor's explosive phone call, the radio on Officer Riley's shoulder crackled loudly. This time, it was the extremely panicked and urgent voice of the dispatcher at the Oakwood Police Department. "Riley! Riley! What's your 20? Report location and status immediately. Chief Chen needs confirmation you're at Community Foods. What are you doing there? Are you involved in an incident with Mr. Marcus Jones, the governor's brother? Direct order from the chief. Maintain position. Absolutely no further action. Do not leave the scene. Await chief's arrival." Riley, still kneeling on the sidewalk, trembled even more desperately upon hearing the radio command. The news had reached the chief that fast? It had to be the governor. Things were spiraling completely out of his control. As expected, only moments later, a distinctive black and white Oakwood Police Department command vehicle sped onto the scene, lights flashing but sirens silent. It screeched to a halt near the incident area. The door flew open, and Police Chief Michael Chen emerged quickly. He was a middle-aged Asian-American man, tall and usually composed, but now his face clearly showed tension, worry, and unconcealed anger. Chief Chen's eyes swept the scene. He saw the crowd of onlookers, the charity table, Marcus Jones standing calmly but looking weary, and finally, his gaze landed on the unbelievable sight. Officer Dave Riley, one of his own, kneeling on the sidewalk, head bowed. Chief Chen didn't need to ask to understand what had happened and its severity. He had received a direct call from Governor Jones herself, her voice steely and furious, demanding he handle the matter decisively. "Riley!" Chief Chen strode towards the kneeling officer, his voice low and powerful. "Get up! Now!" Riley shakily pushed himself up, still not daring to meet his commander's eyes. Chief ... You don't need to say anything. Chief Chen cut him off sharply. Your actions today are an unacceptable disgrace to the entire Oakwood Police Department. Messing with the governor's family? How could you be so stupid? He turned to Riley, eyes cold. Immediately surrender your weapon badge and ID card. Riley knew his career was over. Trembling, he unholstered his Glock, unpinned his OPD badge, and removed his ID card from his uniform, handing them to Chief Chen with both hands. You are hereby placed on indefinite administrative leave without pay, effective immediately, Chief Chen announced firmly. He turned to another subordinate officer who had just arrived with him. Sergeant Williams, escort former Officer Riley back to headquarters immediately. Take him directly to the Internal Affairs interview room and await my orders. Do not allow him contact with anyone else. Yes, Chief, Sergeant Williams responded, stepping forward to lead the shell-shocked Riley away from the scene amidst the silent, contemptuous stares of the crowd. Once Riley was gone, Chief Chen turned to Marcus Jones, his expression filled with remorse and apology. He approached and extended his hand. "Mr. Jones, I'm Michael Chen, Chief of the Oakwood Police Department. I honestly don't know what to say beyond offering my most sincere apologies for the inexcusable behavior of my subordinate officer. On behalf of the entire department, I truly apologize for what you've endured." Marcus Jones shook Chief Chen's hand, firmly but without excessive warmth. "Thank you, Chief Chen. I acknowledge your apology, but what's more important is ensuring that this kind of abuse of power and discrimination never happens again, not just to me, but to any other citizen." "I completely agree, Mr. Jones," Chief Chen replied earnestly. "I assure you this incident will be investigated thoroughly, impartially, and without leniency. The officer responsible will face the strictest possible disciplinary action." Just then, another sleek black sedan pulled up. The door opened, and Governor Victoria Jones emerged, followed by several aides and security personnel. Her anger from the phone call had subsided, replaced by visible concern and gravity. She walked directly to her brother. "Marcus, are you really okay?" She embraced him, closely examining his face, then his hands. "Did he hurt you?" "I'm fine, Vicky," Marcus reassured his sister. "Just a little shaken up." Governor Jones turned to Chief Chen, her eyes sharp. "Chief Chen, I trust you understand the gravity of this situation. This isn't just the misconduct of one individual. It reflects deeper issues regarding attitudes and discipline within your force. I demand an independent, objective investigation with a detailed report submitted to my office. Racial discrimination and abuse of power must be completely eradicated from this state's law enforcement." "Governor, I fully understand and accept your directive," Chief Chen responded respectfully but firmly. "I assure you, the Oakwood Police Department will handle this matter with the utmost seriousness, not only to ensure justice for Mr. Jones, but also to rebuild community trust." Under Chief Chen's direct oversight and immense pressure from the governor's office, the OPD's Internal Affairs Division, IAD, launched an immediate and highly responsible investigation. Lieutenant Ramirez, a seasoned and notoriously incorruptible investigator, was assigned lead. The investigation proceeded swiftly but meticulously. Detailed statements from Marcus Jones, Assistant Manager Maria Garcia, the homeless individuals who witnessed the event, and even passers-by who recorded videos were collected. All accounts consistently described Officer Riley's arrogant attitude, derogatory remarks, and reckless, unprovoked drawing of his weapon. The data from Riley's body cam became irrefutable evidence. The footage captured nearly the entire sequence, from Riley's condescending approach, his prejudiced questioning, the racial and class-based insults, to the moment he lost control, drew his weapon, and yelled threats. This video was carefully secured and became the cornerstone of the case. Dave Riley's personnel file was reviewed, revealing several prior citizen complaints about rudeness and unprofessional conduct, all resolved with minor reprimands or counseling. This incident was clearly the culmination of a pattern of misconduct that had not been adequately addressed. During IAD interviews, facing overwhelming evidence, especially the body cam footage, and knowing there was no chance of a cover-up, Dave Riley finally admitted to his wrongdoing. He confessed to acting on personal prejudice, using offensive language, deliberately escalating the situation unreasonably, and acknowledged that drawing his weapon was a grave error made in anger and loss of control. His confession, though late, further solidified the case against him. After just a few days of intensive work, IAD completed its investigative report and submitted it to Chief Chen. The conclusion was undeniable. Former Officer Dave Riley had committed gross and flagrant violations of numerous professional conduct rules, operational procedures, anti-discrimination policies, and laws related to abuse of authority and unnecessary use of deadly force. His actions severely harmed the victim, damaged the image and reputation of the Oakwood Police Department, and outraged the community. The only possible disciplinary recommendation was permanent termination from the police force. Chief Chen approved the termination without hesitation. He knew it was necessary to maintain discipline and demonstrate the law's seriousness. Dave Riley's firing was publicly announced, accompanied by another formal apology from the OPD to Marcus Jones and the community. However, Dave Riley's story didn't end with losing his career. Recognizing potential criminal charges like aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and civil rights violations, Chief Chen directed that the case file be immediately transferred to the Oakwood County District Attorney's Office for consideration of criminal prosecution. The young former officer would now face the judgment of the courts. The Oakwood County District Attorney's Office, led by DA Elena Miller, known for her tough stance on prosecuting police misconduct and abuse of power, quickly took up the case of former Officer Dave Riley. After meticulously reviewing the evidence provided by IAD, particularly the victim Marcus Jones's testimony, witness statements, and the damning body cam footage, DA Miller decided to press criminal charges against Dave Riley for the most serious applicable offenses. Formal charges filed against Riley in Oakwood County Court included 1. Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, based on the intentional act of drawing and pointing the firearm at Marcus Jones, creating an imminent threat to life and reasonable fear of battery with a deadly weapon. This carries significant prison time. 2. Terroristic threats or reckless endangerment. Depending on specific state laws and interpretation, this charge addressed Riley's creation of panic and danger to those present in a public place through his reckless use of the firearm. 3. Official misconduct, targeting Riley's misuse of his position and authority to commit illegal acts, violating professional ethics and public trust. 4th, civil rights violation, prosecuting the act of racial discrimination during the performance of official duties, highlighting the clear racial bias motivating Riley's actions. The trial of former Officer Dave Riley took place several months later and became the focus of intense attention throughout Oakwood. The case was more than just a typical criminal matter. It held deep symbolic meaning in the fight against racism and abuse of power within law enforcement. The presence of Marcus Jones, the governor's brother, as the victim, only amplified the trial's significance. In court, Marcus Jones once again appeared as the prosecution's key witness. He took the stand with a calm, dignified presence. He recounted the entire incident clearly and concisely, without exaggeration or excessive anger. He simply presented the facts, his legal charity work, Officer Riley's rude approach and treatment, the racial slurs, the baseless accusations, and finally, the menacing act of drawing the gun. He also emphasized the violation of his dignity and the fear he and others experienced. His sincere, straightforward, and impactful testimony deeply resonated with the jury, powerfully conveying the injustice he suffered. The prosecution, led either by DA Miller herself or a senior assistant, presented an airtight case. They introduced testimony from Marcus Jones, Maria Garcia, the homeless individuals, and other witnesses. Crucially, Riley's body cam footage was played repeatedly, becoming incontrovertible proof exposing the former officer's entire misconduct, from words to actions. The IAD investigation findings and Riley's confession during the internal probe were also submitted as supporting evidence. Prosecutors focused on Riley's clear racial bias, blatant abuse of power, and reckless, irresponsible use of deadly force. They urged the jury to deliver a just verdict and the court to impose a severe sentence to ensure deterrence, protect citizens' rights, and uphold the rule of law. Dave Riley's defense attorney faced a mountain of evidence. They had little basis to deny the core actions. Their only strategy was to try to mitigate the charges and plead for leniency. They emphasized factors like Riley's youth, though legally an adult with professional training, lack of experience in handling tense situations, and acting out of uncontrolled anger rather than premeditated malice. They attempted to portray Riley as a remorseful, first-time offender who had already paid a price by losing his career and now deserved a chance to reform. They also argued that no one was physically injured. However, these arguments seemed weak and unconvincing against the public outrage and the severity of the case. Pointing a gun at an innocent civilian, especially when motivated by racial prejudice, was an act that could not be easily excused or minimized. After hearing closing arguments and receiving legal instructions from the presiding judge, the jury retired to deliberate. Deliberations were not lengthy. After only a few hours, they returned to the courtroom with a unanimous verdict. The courtroom atmosphere grew intensely quiet as the jury foreperson stood, holding the verdict form. Dave Riley stood pale, hands clenched, awaiting his fate. On the charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, the foreperson read clearly, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Dave Riley, guilty." A low murmur went through the courtroom. Riley squeezed his eyes shut. The foreperson continued, reading guilty verdicts for the other serious charges, including official misconduct and reckless endangerment. The final judgment was delivered. Dave Riley was found guilty on the most significant counts. Weeks later, the formal sentencing hearing convened. Judge Robert Davis, an experienced older judge known for his fairness but also his strictness, presided. He looked down at former police officer Dave Riley standing before the bench, awaiting the sentence that would determine his future. Judge Davis began by reading his findings before imposing the sentence. His voice was deep, carrying weight and solemnity. He reviewed the case details, emphasizing the irrefutable evidence of Riley's misconduct. He strongly condemned the former officer's abuse of power, racial bias, and reckless use of deadly force. "Dave Riley," Judge Davis said, looking directly at the defendant, "you were granted power and responsibility to protect the community, to uphold law and order. But you gravely betrayed that trust. You allowed vile personal prejudices to dictate your actions, leading you to harass, insult, and ultimately threaten the life of an innocent citizen, a man engaged in the noble act of helping the less fortunate." He paused for effect. "Your actions were not only an affront to the victim, Mr. Marcus Jones, but also an affront to the badge you wore, eroding public trust in those sworn to protect them. Discrimination based on skin color is intolerable in our civilized society, and it becomes exponentially more dangerous when perpetrated by someone vested with public authority and armed with a weapon. The court acknowledges your relative youth, lack of prior criminal record, and the fact that you have been terminated from the police force. The court also notes your belated expression of remorse. However, these factors cannot overshadow the extreme seriousness of your offenses, particularly the reckless use of a firearm and the clear racial animus. Justice demands a sentence that not only punishes you individually, but also serves as a sufficient deterrent to others who might contemplate similar actions. This sentence must clearly state that society and the law will not tolerate such abuse of power and divisive behavior. Therefore, after careful consideration of all circumstances, aggravating and mitigating factors, and the relevant statutes, the Oakwood County Court sentences the defendant, Dave Riley, to... Judge Davis paused one final time, then announced the sentence clearly. 4 years incarceration. The 4-year prison sentence was pronounced unequivocally. To many, it might not seem excessively long, but for a young former police officer, it was a severe punishment, enough to end any future prospects and leave an indelible stain. Dave Riley completely broke down upon hearing the sentence. He sobbed uncontrollably, losing all composure. Court officers immediately moved in, handcuffed him, and led him silently from the courtroom to begin paying for his unforgivable mistakes behind bars. The incident became a costly lesson for the Oakwood Police Department, forcing them to implement further reforms and strengthen oversight. Marcus Jones, after the storm passed, continued his business and charity work, earning even greater support and respect from the community. Governor Victoria Jones used her brother's experience to push for stronger state policies against racial bias and abuse of power within law enforcement. The wrongdoer paid his price, the good man was vindicated and continued to shine. And the lesson about the cost of prejudice and the abuse of power was deeply etched into the minds of all who knew the story. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you enjoyed this content, please hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next meaningful story, because tomorrow we'll have another one ready for you.